The 18 Strong Podcast, number 158 with Cate Ritter from Cate's Nutrition Kitchen and Make the Turn Performance.
You'd be surprised at how many people just don't even look at the sugar content. They'll pick up, some really good quality yogurt, but it's flavored. And then I'll have to explain that it's got the equivalent amount of sugar as 3 cans of Coke.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzero.
Hello, and welcome back to the 18 Strong Podcast. Or if this is your first time listening to the 18 Strong Podcast, I want to first thank you for joining us and let you know that our mission here is basically to bring on guests that are going to impact you in one way or another to improve your health, your fitness, your golf game, and basically make you stronger both on and off the course. And so this week we are talking nutrition, and we're talking nutrition with Cate Ritter. Cate is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. She's a health writer, and she's the founder of Cate's Nutrition Kitchen, and she's the director of nutrition for Make the Turn Performance. And she has a new ebook called The Lean 18, which we're going to talk about a lot in this episode, and highlight some of the different tips and strategies that she has, not only to improve your golf game, but also just to kind of eat better on a regular basis, improve your health, which is also going to definitely improve your performance. To give you just a little bit more background on her, Cate's commitment to better health began as a quest for personal improvement, but it ended up with a desire to help others professionally. So following a very successful career as a top junior and collegiate golfer, she shifted her focus more to nutrition. And her experiences working with professionals in the kitchen in the U.S. and even abroad, as well as her athletic background and unique perspectives on wellness, have given Cate kind of a variety of tools that help others effectively achieve their goals. And that especially includes those in the Make the Turn Performance realm, where, working with golfers on a regular basis. Her work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, U.S. News, World Report, Women's Health, Runner's World, Golf Digest, Outside Magazine, you name it, and she's probably written for it. And she's also a contributing editor for Layered Superfood. So I'm really excited to bring Cate on because she has so many great tips and tricks in this book. You'll hear that a lot of the things that she talks about resonate with me because of my wife's influence on the way that we eat here in our household. And so we're going to talk not only just about some of the more basic things that you may have heard on other podcasts or other nutrition episodes, talking about, how to read food labels and the importance of proteins and certain ways to get protein into your diet a little bit better. And, what are the good fats and why are fats so important? And maybe the mental shift around, fats not necessarily being bad for you. But then we are also going to touch on some different things that you may not have heard about, like collagen and bone broth and kombucha, and how some of these things can enhance your health and ultimately enhance your performance both on and off the course. So really looking forward to sharing with you some of these new ideas and sharing Cate's book, The Lean 18, with you. Before we do jump into the episode, I want to say a quick thanks to our sponsor, as always, the PGA Tour mobile app, which has been kind of a lifesaver over the past season of golf, trying to keep up with everything going on. The FedEx Cup playoffs are going on right now, kind of going into the last little bout of the season at Eastlake. And it's been fun to just be able to keep track of what's going on the leaderboards, find out, where my favorite players are, and everything else that's going on tour, who's in the top final 30 that's going to Eastlake this week. So if you haven't gotten your hands on the PGA Tour mobile app, it has really been a great resource for me to use when I'm out and about or with the kids or just not able to watch or follow along. So I definitely recommend that you go check that out. And you can find that at pgatour.com and just look for the mobile section, or we have it linked up in the show notes here. All right, let's jump into this episode on The Lean 18 with Cate Ritter. Cate Ritter, welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, obviously you have a wonderful new book that you just put out, The Lean 18, which is visually one of the coolest looking books that I've seen on nutrition, especially in kind of the golf space. And so we're going to talk all about, how the book came about, what the content of the book is, and we're going to touch on some of the different chapters. But if you could give the audience a little bit of background. They might recognize the name Ritter from the podcast before. Give us a little background on you and your professional background in nutrition. Just kind of a brief synopsis, and then we'll kind of go from there.
I grew up playing golf at the age of 8. I played competitively my whole, youth and even in college. And, I'm definitely a golf nut that got interested in nutrition and health more in college. And I was just really looking at ways I could, improve my performance on and off the course, and just, just had a lot of different experiences that just kept leading me more and more into the health aspect. And as I started feeling better, it was not only beneficial for my health, but it was more enjoyable to be out on the course. I had less aches and pains and a little bit more muscle, a little bit longer tee shots. So that was always helpful. And then many of you know my husband, Jeff Ritter. We met about 10 years ago. I came out to get a golf lesson, and we just hit it off. And, it was perfect connection to work with more and more golfers. And, I work as a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which is kind of a mouthful, but basically I help people get to the underlying issues of their symptoms and use things like nutrition and lifestyle tips to help those people, improve their health on and off the golf course as well. And so I've been in business for about 8 years with my own practice, catesnutrition.com. And I was really trying to find a way to kind of find the least amount of changes that a person would have to make to get the most effective results long term. So, that's kind of where I came up with the the Lean 18, which consists of the 18 nutrition principles, 18 foods. And I'm trying to keep it as simple and enjoyable. My motto is delicious plus doable equals sustainable, meaning that if you enjoy the foods that you're eating and they fit into your schedule, no matter how crazy that might be, then it's a lot easier to maintain those, not just diet, but lifestyle tips as well, which is really the ultimate goal, to find something that is part of your lifestyle, not a fad diet that you just do for a week or 2 weeks and until you lose weight, but something that you actually enjoy, and it doesn't really feel like you're making huge changes or depriving yourself or being restrictive with what you eat, but really finding those tips that are going to have the biggest impact on how you look, feel, and perform.
That's one of the things that I'd really noticed just going through the book, but also reading some of the articles that you've written, is just that focus on simplicity and building habits. And anybody that's listened to this show before knows that we like to scale back. There's so much content out there on what we should and shouldn't be doing. And sometimes it gets to be that paralysis by analysis, where there's so much information that if you just took some of the simple principles and boiled it down, you'd be much better off doing that stuff consistently. And that's why I like how you kind of break into just some different habits and things that we can do, even just one bite at a time, one piece at a time, to start to build those habits. There's a couple things that you mentioned in the book that I'd kind of like to dig into, and then we'll jump into a couple of the topics of different chapters. But one is how people focus on food as fuel. And we say that a lot, when we're talking about losing weight and dieting and things like that. But you said in there that, focusing on it as fuel is one thing, but focusing on the nourishment is another. And that's kind of a misconception that some people have. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, and you nailed it. There's just so much information out there, and really kind of an overwhelming amount of misinformation and, dietary trends and health advice that's kind of more based on profit and not necessarily with people's health in mind, or as the focus, I should say. Sure. So it can get very overwhelming, like you said, the paralysis by analysis of just what should I do, when people, resort to counting calories and avoiding fats and even good fats, and it just becomes very restrictive. And I feel like the more strict you are with what you eat, the more stress you create. And in my opinion, stress makes everything worse. It's really the biggest killer out there. So, I like to try and get people to kind of follow a 3-step program where they're focusing on eating those whole foods, or at least products that are made from whole food ingredients. So that would be number one. Number two would be finding healthier alternatives. So if you really love pasta or oatmeal or anything that's kind of more processed, then really finding healthier options within those foods. So it's really kind of those small daily upgrades that will have the biggest impact long term. And then 3, if you can't find whole foods, you don't want to find healthier alternatives, then kind of plan 1 to 2 cheat meals a week to indulge, which a lot of people get, surprised by, like, oh, I can cheat on this. But, over time, they kind of find that their splurges are more and more, boring, as I've been told, where they don't necessarily crave as many sweets or, as many of the unhealthy sweets. They start to choose more of the whole foods, and, their taste buds naturally get, retuned to where if they have the same amount of sugar that they did a few months ago, they're kind of disgusted at just how sweet it is. So really it's about, kind of following these principles, taking more of a flexible approach around food, having a healthy relationship where you're really looking at food more as nourishment than just calories and fuel. So hopefully that kind of is the long version of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important that, we're talking about golf, obviously, but we're talking about just kind of everyday lifestyle too. And the two, for most of our audience is going to mix together. It's not like people listening to the show are anticipating being on the tour and, playing professional golf, and they have to do everything they can to just tweak their performance for that day or that weekend. What we're talking about is, healthy lifestyle changes that you can do on the road, that you can do, if you're working 50, 60 hours a week, those kinds of things. And what I want to kind of touch on in our interview here, as we go through some of these different chapters, is just some of the practical things. But what I also really like about your book is you touched on some things that you don't normally hear just kind of in everyday talk when we're talking nutrition. So there's some different topics in here that hopefully we're going to kind of introduce some of the golfers to that they may not have heard of, talking about maybe some collagen or kombucha and some of these different things that,
right.
I probably only know of because of my wife, who is very much into this. And, we keep kombucha at the house and bone broth and those kind of things. And so we'll get into
Nice. I love it.
Yeah. In fact, talking to Jeff about some of the things that, the nutrition stuff that you guys do is funny how similar our households are, really. But I want to introduce the listeners to some of these things. And I think a lot of it starts with first just understanding how to read a food label. And so that's kind of chapter 4 in your book, and talking about what are the important things that we need to look at when we're just picking up something in the grocery store. You see the labels, but a lot of people don't really know exactly what they're looking for or what all that means. So can you enlighten us a little bit there?
Right. And so one of the first things that I usually introduce to a client is, how to actually read food labels. Like, a lot of times people think that they're doing the right things, but they often just go straight to the calorie content. And, I'm a big fan of selecting, I guess I should say, focusing on the quality of the calories you're consuming versus the quantity. So I'm not looking at, if it's 100 calories versus 200 calories. There's plenty of things that are listed as 100 calories that you shouldn't be eating, like those Oreo packs or, those quick snack, 100 calorie snack packs, those things that are really just processed and full of sugar and ingredients that, you don't want to have in your body. So I kind of have to shift them to stop looking so much at the amount of calories, but really where are those calories coming from? So the first thing we look at is the ingredients. And, we always want to look for minimal ingredients, whole food ingredients, as much as possible. The fewer ingredients on the label, the better. And, there's always those red flags. Like if something looks like it's a chemistry experiment, then, or you can't pronounce it, or you don't know what it is, then you probably shouldn't be eating it.
Right.
So we try to look at, what kinds of ingredients are there, and then are they more whole food ingredients, or are they refined and processed? For example, having a whole food like a date as a sweetener would be a much healthier option than, say, brown sugar or brown rice syrup or something that's been processed and refined. And then of course dates have that synergy of nutrients, great source of potassium. They still have some sugar in there, but at least it's the naturally occurring sugars. So basically looking for minimal ingredients, the less refined, the better, and then avoiding any of those chemistry concoctions or words you can't pronounce.
It's funny when you see a couple different products and they're similar products, or supposed to be similar products, and you pick up one, it's got 8 ingredients, you pick up another one, and it's like half the side of the box, and it's got like 20 different ingredients on it. What about as far as like the quantity of the different ingredients? Because I know that there's something with the way that it's labeled out, like how much of what is in each thing.
Right, great point. I mean, when you're looking at the label of ingredients, they're listed from most abundant to least abundant. So the common example I use is that, when you're buying tomato sauce, the first ingredient should be tomatoes and not sugar, or water or something else. So you always want to make sure that you're not starting with like a sugar or something that is unnatural as the first ingredient. And then also just focusing on the sugar content would be, the second step. So focusing on ingredients first, sugar content second. You'd be surprised at how many people just don't even look at the sugar content. They'll pick up, some really good quality yogurt, but it's flavored. And then I'll have to explain that it's got the equivalent amount of sugar as 3 cans of Coke. Or some other processed, soda. So that really surprises them. And also foods that are labeled low fat or fat free, tend to have sugars added to make up for that loss of flavor. So a lot of times those pretty packages, with the low calorie, low fat, fat free kind of labels are oftentimes the least healthy options.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I think we'll get into that when we talk about the chapter on fats in a bit. But the mislabeling or the marketing around some of these products is kind of crazy. And really, ideally, if we could kind of shift ourselves more to the products that don't have labels, more the produce section, the greens, those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
It's obviously probably the way that you would steer us in most respects. Let's talk a little bit about the protein portion of the book, where you talk about packing in more protein, because I tend to find that I'll ask somebody, particularly about their breakfast, when they come to the gym or, and they have these ideas that, I eat a pretty healthy breakfast and I'm getting my fruit and my yogurt and granola and whatever.
Right.
And I have to kind of encourage them and sometimes convince them that protein, they need to get some sort of protein in there. So what are your guidelines as far as just packing in more protein, and then especially when we look at breakfast?
Yeah, I mean, breakfast is definitely a very important meal because it sets the tone for the rest of the day. And what a lot of people don't realize is that you need the amino acids in protein for proper, neurotransmitter balance. And basically what that means is, if you're eating enough of, good quality proteins, especially in the morning, it's also going to help your mental performance the rest of the day. It also helps your metabolism. So it's really important to start each meal with protein, but especially breakfast. And unfortunately, most of our breakfast foods, especially those that are marketed, are really high in refined carbohydrates, like pastries, bagel, bowl of cereal. Even things like orange juice are often really processed and refined. People have the low-fat milk with their cereal, and then they add some fruit on top of it. So in the book, I outline kind of a bogey breakfast with orange juice, cereal, low-fat milk, and a banana, and it totals up to 95 grams of sugar, which is equivalent to 3 cans of Coke or soda. So, the first step I like people to make is to get more protein in at breakfast. And that could be eggs, even adding good quality bacon or sausage, fish, protein powder, a quick protein shake. I list some of my favorite protein sources in the book, including the collagen, which especially golfers and athletes really are lacking. So, but of course, quality is crucial for, just with any type of food. So looking for, those organic, hormone-free, antibiotic-free proteins, if you could get like the grass-fed beef or, free-range eggs, those things will really go a long way in adding a lot of nutrients into your daily diet as well.
And then what about, oatmeal is a very common one. What about oatmeal? What are your thoughts on that? When should they eat it? When shouldn't they eat it? Is it good? Is it bad?
I would say that it really depends kind of on their weight loss or fat loss goals. If someone's really struggling, they've got, say, like some stubborn belly fat, then maybe focusing more on those protein rich and even the natural fats first thing in the morning would be a better option until they get to more of that maintenance mode where they feel good about their body composition. Then they can start experimenting with a little bit more carbohydrates. I would say steel cut oats, they're less processed and refined. Those would be my top choice. And then making sure you're adding some natural fats to it to help lower the glycemic load or the rate at which those carbs are broken down and digested by your body. And also, maybe some protein in there. You could add a little bit of whey protein or your preferred protein powder too to help balance it out. It's really kind of about finding more balanced meals. Unfortunately, most of our, they call it SAD, standard American diet principles are focused on very carb-rich foods. So really kind of balancing those carbs out with the proteins and the natural fats would be really helpful.
Perfect. I find that, talking about just more of a balanced plate, that anytime I mention to somebody that I recommend they throw a vegetable in the morning, they kind of look at me like I'm crazy. But the fact is that, balancing that out, like you're talking about, is so important all throughout the day. And I don't know who made the rule that you can't have vegetables for breakfast and it has to be donuts and pastries, but they definitely won in the marketing department. So
right, it's not as profitable, I guess.
Exactly. Well, let's talk a little bit about chapter 11. You call befriending fats, and this has been a debate forever. And it seems like there's different opinions on it still about fats and whether they're good, whether they're bad. Should we be eating the low fat stuff or the low calorie stuff? How do you weigh in on this?
Right. So I'm a huge fan of natural fats, which you'll get by the book too. But of course, quality is crucial, just like with anything, as I mentioned before. But unfortunately, fats got the bad rap in the past 30, 40 years or so. It's a lot more profitable for the food industry to start promoting, low fat products, and unfortunately that really affected, will decrease the health of the nation, which luckily now there's a lot more research and a lot more books available, and people are really starting to recognize that they need these natural fats for overall health. But the truth is that, eating fat doesn't make you fat, which is really hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around, but it's more eating too many of those processed foods high in the refined carbs and sugars that are going to influence your hormones, particularly insulin. And that is what's going to have a bigger impact on whether or not you gain weight versus, the amount of calories. So natural fats are really helpful for fat loss. They're also needed for making hormones as well. So definitely helpful to get in good quality fats throughout the day. They can increase your nutrient absorption. One thing that's particularly important for the course is that they can boost your brain function as well and help stabilize your blood sugar levels. So, you have more even energy throughout your round, and you might, require less snacking, and, you're able to better focus on playing versus growling tummy.
Okay, you've definitely heard me talk about it before, but I want to interject here and say a quick thanks to our sponsor of this episode, which is Rad Roller. The guys and girls at Rad Roller have designed some of the greatest myofascial tools on the planet that are specifically designed for our bodies to help work on the different tough, tight areas, help mold and mend the tissues that are not moving quite so well, and help just facilitate what we're all trying to do when we go to the gym or when we're trying to improve our golf game by getting our bodies in better shape. So if you haven't checked out the Rad Roller tools, go to radroller.com. And for all of those fitness or medical professionals that are in the listening audience here today, I want to let you guys know that in the upcoming months, on November 12th, we're going to be hosting a Rad Roller Mobility Level 1 and even the Golf Level 1 certification courses here in St. Louis at our home base, the 18 Strong home base at Empire Fitness Academy. And more details will be coming on the website. I will link some of that up in the show notes. If you would be interested in coming to that course, reach out to us via social media on any of the 18 Strong platforms, or you can even send me an email, jeff@18strong.com, and in the subject, just put Rad Mobility Course, and we will get you set up with some of the information as it comes out. Again, go to radroller.com to get any more information on the products that you'd like, and if you do decide to purchase something, use the code 18strong to get your discount. All right, let's get back to Cate. So can you give us an idea of what, when we say fats, it's kind of a broad term. And
Right.
if you could kind of break that down a little bit for us, just so we understand, like, what foods are we talking about, or what components of foods are we talking about, and why are some good, why are some maybe not so good?
Yeah, so the more natural and less refined, the better. So for example, those that are naturally occurring in nature, like coconut oil, versus something like corn oil, which, if you squeeze a kernel of corn, not much fat comes out of it, right? It's mostly just a little bit of water. So, food companies have to process and refine this, and it becomes a very unnatural fat that your metabolism has trouble digesting and processing and using for fuel and for nutrients. So, basically those that occur in nature, like the coconuts, avocado, even a good grass-fed butter, avocado oil, even olive oil, wild salmon, sardines, nuts, seeds, nut butter. Those are all great sources. And then, depending on the person, a good quality, full fat, organic, cheese or yogurt or kefir would be really good as well. Yeah. So in the book, I outline kind of the different fats to include and kind of how you can add those in easily, like, by cooking with the unrefined coconut oil, adding avocado oil for salad dressing, snacking on some nuts or nut butter. And I have some particular brands that I really like for nut butter, I discovered the Nutso to-go squeeze packs, which I'm addicted to on the course with like a banana or an apple. They just make it so easy and convenient to have an individual serving of nut butter, and they combine so many different nuts that it's just a great flavor and texture. So I have different things like that kind of outlined in the book to help give people more variety. I find one of the biggest challenges for most of the people I work with is that they tend to eat the same foods every day and every week, and it just gets very boring and redundant, and they just kind of, they're not nourishing themselves. They're just using it as fuel and kind of doing what's easy. And a lot of times they don't know that there's options out there that taste good and are healthy as well. So it's kind of about increasing the variety and just giving them more ideas to expand on.
It's amazing when you just keep eating the same thing over and over again. At least in my own personal experience, it's like, okay, I feel like I have pretty good willpower and I can do this for a certain period of time, but after a while it just gets so boring. And my wife and I think it was last year, she kind of introduced me to that Whole30 program. And
oh, great.
And it was, for 30 days or whatever, but it all had to do with cooking really good meals and really good wholesome meals with real food. And it was amazing how easy it was or how easy it seemed to be, having just different foods, well-prepared foods. So a lot of that comes down to the planning and prep. And I know that that's a big thing that you talk about is just being a little more adventurous in what you're eating, but also how important is the preparation?
Oh, the preparation is just, it's crucial. If you don't plan ahead and prepare, it's just kind of you're setting yourself up for failure, or finding, something unhealthy at the turn, or, a vending machine at work. So really, even just setting aside an hour on the weekend to kind of help prep food. I have a whole chapter on kind of how to make it easy or easier to eat healthy. Again, I'm trying to find the most delicious and doable ways for people to implement these tips. So I have, different resources like Real Plans menu planners. You can actually, it's only, I think, it's as low as like $7 a month. I'll say that. There's different packages and plans, but you basically can go online to this menu planner and you can create whatever, dietary preferences you want. If you don't like certain foods, those will be excluded. You could plan it around if you're dining out or traveling. And they'll create not just a menu, but recipes and a grocery list. And the grocery list is even based on kind of what you already have in your pantry or your fridge, so that you don't, overstock on different things. But that can be really helpful for a lot of people, just getting organized and getting into kind of a healthier, daily ritual of, okay, well, on Sunday, I'm doing like 1 hour prep. I'm putting stuff in my slow cooker or crock pot. Or some people, really do well with like a meal delivery service, where they just have to reheat the food on their own, and, they can adjust that for their preferences as well. There's lots of different options too for grocery shopping online now too, that just makes it a lot easier for people to, not have to spend a couple hours a week in the grocery store. Whole Foods can be very overwhelming for a lot of people. So there's things like Thrive Market online, which I love and I'm addicted to. So, and it makes healthy eating a lot more affordable as well.
Well, and now that Amazon, who's taken over the world, has purchased Whole Foods, I think it's only going to become hopefully going to become easier for us. What are some of the pitfalls that you see regarding kind of the prep, and because I think some of it's a mindset when you're going to the golf course. What are some of the pitfalls that you see people latching onto, at the turn or with the snacks that they bring on the course, and how they're preparing or not preparing, really, I should say, when they go out there, and what could we be doing a little bit better?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of people will kind of wait until they're hungry before they think, oh, okay, I need to get something. And then they kind of grab just whatever's there and convenient, which, a lot of times aren't necessarily the healthiest choices. So, making sure, you plan ahead always helps. And then finding, those whole food options whenever possible, and trying to balance them out. So they're, they have some quality protein, some natural fat, and I would say a colorful carb, or at least a whole food carb, really helps. And one thing I would say that is so common nowadays, since we have such a fast-paced way of living, is that people eat while they're doing, 3 different things. So, the first chapter in my book is all about just how to eat more mindfully, slowing down, putting your cell phone down while you're eating, not texting or, getting on Facebook while you're scarfing down your lunch, and kind of just increasing your awareness. So that's usually the first thing I recommend, is people just kind of take a little bit of time to, focus on just eating alone and chewing their food more, which can really help a lot with digestion as well. And also just does help increase the flavor of their food that they're eating too. There's actually a study done showing that singing happy birthday before you eat cake actually makes it taste better. So I find that when people, not that you should be, eating cake every day or have to sing happy birthday before you eat every time, but, finding these little rituals that get you into that more mindful mindset where this is a source of nourishment, something to be enjoyed, something that's special, then it can actually not only help you, improve your health, but also increase your enjoyment for what you're eating as well.
That's interesting. I'm definitely guilty of the just kind of cramming stuff in my face when I'm on the go, or
right.
We have so many things going on and trying to squeeze it all in. So I might have to start singing happy birthday a little bit more often. All right. I want to, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, I want to touch on just a couple, a little bit of topics that are a little more out there that people may not have heard of. And one of the things that you talk about in your book is collagen intake. And this is something that I didn't know much about, like I said, until my wife started kind of reading up on collagen and bone broth, and she has her own nutrition blog that she writes on. And so I started kind of, first of all, I would just see it in the fridge and be like, whoa, what is that? And why is it in there? But then kind of hearing about some of the benefits of it, it just started to make sense that, now I drink it every now and then. My kids drink it on a fairly regular basis. And give us a little idea of what is collagen? Why is it important? And why are we starting to see this trend of people using this for performance?
Right. So collagen is a type of protein. It's the most abundant protein in the body. And it actually kind of works like a glue to keep your body together. So it's a building block for your hair, your skin, your bones, tendons, joints, ligaments, cartilage, and your connective tissue. So as you can tell, it's really important for overall health, but also your digestion, your gut health, your immune system, and even your heart health as well. So it can help increase hydration, reduce joint pain, reduce inflammation, increase your antioxidants, also, support detoxification. It's just excellent, especially for athletes, since there's so much, wear and tear on the body. And there's a lot more, instances of just like back pain or joint pain and just overall inflammation. So just adding a little bit of collagen into your daily diet can really help improve overall health and reduce a lot of those issues too. So, bone broth is an excellent source of collagen, which a lot of people, they're like, I don't know if I want to start doing that. That sounds a little weird, especially if, someone's just drinking a cup of bone broth. But there are different ways too to make it more palatable. You can add it to your soup or stews, sauces, or you could even braise your vegetables in it. But for a lot of people, starting out with more of a collagen supplement can be really helpful, or things that have good quality collagen in them. I recommend the Primal Kitchen bars. I'm addicted to those. They're available on Thrive. If you haven't tried those, so those are gluten-free, organic, low in sugar, and a great source of collagen as well. I'd say my favorite's the macadamia sea salt. But those are excellent for, packing for the course, or, if you travel a lot. There's different varieties too. But yeah, starting kind of with the supplement or the food sources, and then kind of working your way into the bone, including more bone broth, is excellent. And I'd start more with the chicken broth when you do, versus the beef broth. It's a lot more palatable as well.
And how do you just drink it straight, or do you mix it in with a lot of the other things like you talked about? Because I know that there's different people have different ways of doing it. Some will heat it up in the morning. Some, me, I'll just end up slamming it when I do it. And it actually was better than I expected. The first time I drank it, I think I even posted on Facebook or something like, okay, here it goes. And I drank it and I was like, oh, that was just like chicken broth. That wasn't a big deal. It's almost like they need a better name for it, because bone broth just scares you. But it's really not that bad.
I mean, we really like to have it. I mean, we get a lot of foggy days here on the coast. And so, especially when it's kind of gloomy out, and it just kind of helps rejuvenate you. We'll usually have a little bit before dinner, kind of as like a little appetizer. You can add a pinch of sea salt to it. Sometimes we add like seaweed, or depending, fresh ginger is really good too. There was a time where I feel like my body really needed the bone broth, so I would actually have it in the morning instead of coffee, because that's just kind of what my body craved, which a lot of people are like, that sounds disgusting.
Yeah, that's just weird.
But sometimes people are kind of lacking a lot of those nutrients, especially the amino acids. And so they, tend to crave it a little bit more in the beginning. Or, if your body's doing a lot of healing or detoxification, just a little extra bone broth can be really helpful. But I recommend people try and get about a cup a day if they are doing the bone broth. And luckily there's a lot of online options. I'd say quality, again, is crucial, because a lot of store-bought broth isn't prepared properly, meaning they don't use the right ingredients or the right methods to extract the nutrients. So you either get like a very watered down product that doesn't do you much good, or there's things like MSG added to it, which you don't want to get either. So I list a couple sources, like the Kettle and Fire is a great option, and they don't use any plastic in their packaging either, which is helpful. And it's pretty much ready to go right out of the container, and they use lots of carrots and onions and ginger and things like that. So it doesn't taste so much like chicken broth, but kind of like you're having just a soup without anything in it.
Yeah, a friend of mine actually just started a bone broth company, and she kind of surprised me with like how many different recipes she have. I'll give her a little shout out, KB Wellness. But how many different varieties you can have, and you can have some different flavors, and it's not just like chicken broth. So there's definitely
right.
And just the way that it's prepared and how much time goes into it, and to do it the right way to get the right things in there is definitely a process. So definitely make sure you're checking out where you're getting it from. Let's move on to one other weird drink that I see in the fridge all the time, and that's kombucha. What is kombucha, and kind of explain the process of how it comes to be kombucha, because that was really kind of strange to me.
So kombucha is basically a fermented tea beverage. So it has water, tea, sugar, and what's called a SCOBY, a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, which is just the culture. So we actually make kombucha. We do a continuous brew in our house. We have it on tap. So
no way.
Some people are like, are you guys brewing beer or something? What is this over here? And so it's really fun to have that. And it's a little bit fizzy, kind of like a soda would be. And it doesn't have a lot of sugar, because basically the culture feeds off of the tea and sugar. So by the time that it's ready to drink, there's usually less than 4 grams of sugar per cup, I would say. So of course, different varieties might have more sugar, especially if you're buying, store-bought brands as well. So I'd definitely look at the sugar content on that as well and make sure they don't have any added sugars. But the kombucha is just an excellent source of antioxidants, probiotics, really good source of vitamin C, and a whole host of beneficial acids like acetic acid, lactic acid, gluconic acid. These acids are really important for metabolism and immune function. It's also a great source of, B vitamins. So, it can be very energizing for a lot of people as well. So, great for digestion, gut health, immune system, even athletic performance. When I was doing research for the book, I was finding that Olympic athletes back in the day used to drink up to a quart of kombucha daily while training to prevent lactic acid buildup, so that they could, prevent sore muscles and train longer and harder. So, really helpful for golfers and other athletes as well. There's different flavors too. You could also, sometimes we'll just add frozen blueberries to the kombucha, and it'll flavor it as well. Or fresh ginger is really good too. But I am a huge fan of the kombucha.
It's interesting when you start to learn more about just the gut health and everything. And I think that there's a lot of spotlight being shown on that these days, and how important that is, because that's where all of our nutrients are absorbed, and things like kombucha, things like a bone broth can really help to settle some of those issues, or kind of resolve some issues that people might have. Is that a big problem that you see with individuals that you work with on a regular basis, that they have difficulty absorbing different things? And these are some of the remedies that you use to help them get over that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, most people need help just improving overall gut health, which is really foundational for overall health. So adding things like the kombucha can really make a big difference. I will say that a lot of my clients really find kombucha beneficial when they travel, just because of the digestive irregularity that, is so common when people are on the go. And so, just stocking up on kombucha at like a Whole Foods or it's becoming more readily available now. So, other places are carrying it more and more as well. But it's best to drink kombucha in small amounts more frequently throughout the day versus, just downing a whole bottle at once. So I like to have people do maybe like 4 ounces before each meal, because it can also help with digestion and even reduce your appetite too.
Awesome. That's a great tip. Good to know. All right. I think we opened some people's eyes to some new things today. This is great. Definitely different conversation on a golf podcast. So hopefully you guys will take some of that and try it out, experiment a little bit and see what works for you and how you feel, maybe after trying some of these things for a regular period of time. Cate, before you go, we have to ask some of the typical questions at the end of the show.
Right.
So I'm going to start out with our favorite here, and that's, are you more of a Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore fan?
Definitely Caddyshack. I actually brought the Caddyshack DVD to watch on one of my first dates with my husband.
Nice.
And I hope he didn't mention this before, but he immediately went outside, called his mom, and told her that he found his dream girl, which I didn't know at the time. He revealed that to me. So it was definitely Caddyshack. I love that movie.
That is hilarious. All right, Cate, if golf was like baseball or like a boxing match and you got to pick a song as you walked up to the first tee box, what's your song?
That's definitely a challenge because I'd say it depends on the course and who I'm playing with. But for the most part, especially if I'm playing with my husband, I'd say my song would be James Brown, Super Bad, which he's going to laugh at so hard when he hears this.
I love it. Inside jokes here on the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm definitely very competitive, so I use that to any distractions possible when I'm playing against my husband, Jeff, to get an advantage.
I like it. All right. If you had the opportunity to play 18 holes with anyone in the world, past or present, who would it be and where would you play? And I want to clarify one thing. Most people kind of take this and they take the opportunity to say their dad or their grandpa or something, but this isn't your last round of golf on earth. This is just somebody interesting that you would love to play golf with.
I have to be boring and just, I just love going out and playing with my husband, and we love just going out to Poppy Hills here and playing 9 holes in the early evening when the light's just right, and then maybe having a glass of wine or something afterwards and watching the sunset. So it's kind of boring, but I'm pretty happy with just that.
Oh, you still went sappy on me, but that's okay.
I know.
Okay. We love your husband here at the podcast too, so that's an okay answer. All right, Cate, what has you most excited? Obviously, you've got the new book out and everything. What's going on with Cate's Nutrition? What has you most excited? And then what's one last piece of advice you have for the 18 Strong audience?
I'm really excited about, helping people just kind of get that misinformation cleared up and start making the healthy eating and healthy living, delicious and doable so it's sustainable for them. I think that's just so important. The whole purpose of improving your nutrition is so that, you can enjoy your life more. And I really enjoy helping people kind of bridge that gap and really get to look, feel, and perform better and on and off the course as well. What was the second part of the question?
Any last piece of advice for the 18 Strong audience?
Yeah. So I'd say if there's one thing you could do, it's to just eat more whole foods, or at least products made from, whole foods, single ingredients, basically.
Perfect. And where's the best place that they can go find you and find the book and kind of follow you, either social media or your website?
My website is Cate's Nutrition, and that's Cate with the C, CATES nutrition.com. They can also email me, Kate@katesnutrition.com. The Lean 18 ebook is available on Amazon and also on iTunes as well.
Perfect. And we'll have all of that linked up in the show notes. Everybody will be able to go straight to 18 Strong to find all of that information, all the links to your stuff. Cate, I want to say it's been a pleasure getting to officially meet you and get to chat about all of this stuff and really how you're helping to simplify some of the messages that are out there that can be so confusing. So putting this book together and then all the other content that you have out there obviously has been really helpful to kind of boil some of this back. So really, really appreciate it. And I know that we'll be chatting much further in the future.
Thanks, Jeff. And thanks so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the 18 Strong Podcast with Cate Ritter. If you would like any more information on Cate, you can obviously go to her website, catesnutrition.com, or you can find links to everything else that we talked about on the show, like Make the Turn Performance, and obviously a place where you can go and purchase Cate's new book, The Lean 18, which I think is just a fantastic resource. It's very simply laid out. It's got tons of tips and a lot of background information on different ingredients and the different things that she uses in order to, again, enhance your performance. So I want to say thanks to our sponsors for this week's episode, the PGA Tour mobile app, and of course, radroller.com. And just want to say thanks for being here. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us here at 18 Strong. We are really excited about some things coming up. We've got some new apparel that's going to be launching pretty soon. So keep your eye out for that. And of course, join our private Facebook group, the 18 Strong Movement, to kind of jump in on the conversations, get to know us. We want to get to know you and find out, where you're golfing, what you're doing, what are your workouts looking like, and how can we help a little bit more than we do just with the podcast. So looking forward to connecting with you there. As always, we want you to train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong Podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.